and I'm with you always until the end of the age. Father Ron Rolheiser, the great Catholic theologian and priest from Canada, shares a reflection on the Ascension that is particularly powerful and insightful. He says that the Ascension is more than a feast day or an event, but more an introduction to a new theology, a new spirituality, a new mindset of how to be a disciple in the world. He says that Jesus introduces a way in which enter into a paradoxical interplay in our lives between the things that happen, to live with the paradox, if you would, of life. The paradox of life and death, of presence and absence, of love and loss. And that he's trying to teach the disciples this new way to be a disciple, a new mindset or spirituality of how to be a disciple. Now bear in mind that, Jesus is risen from the dead at this point, and he's been for 40 days, he has been with them now. And this is the ascension, and he is lifted up into heaven, departing from them. But he will return with the gift of the Holy Spirit in 10 more days that we'll celebrate next Sunday in the Pentecost. And in this sort of this week in between, we're called to do what the disciples are called to do, which is to ponder this new way, to ponder it more deeply into our heart, let it soak in and marinate in our soul. And what does it mean for us in our own lives, as the disciples had to do? That the gift of the Spirit is very real in our life, but we sometimes get distracted with so much things in our life. These last 2 nights, we've had this powerful musical called Job, the New Testament, that John Meriden and the whole cast put on for us. And in it, the story is about why do bad things happen to good people? And where is God in the midst of all the suffering in the world, and most particularly in our lives? Where is God in that suffering? And of course, it goes through the story of Job, relating it to a more modern day story of Aaron. But at the end, it comes and assures that in those difficult times, it deals with that very paradox of life. What do we do in the midst of suffering and pain and lack of understanding of why it all happens, whether to others or even to us? Is the ultimate message is to hold on to love, because it is love that gets us through. Love of each other, love of God, and ultimately that is the ultimate message of Jesus, that the Ascension, if you would, brings powerful focus to today. As I was reflecting on both the musical these last few nights and this feast day today, I had to reflect on my own life and the own losses that I've owned in life. The way in your phone you have favorites or, fast dial, you can get to the fast dial. Well, I realized over this last 18 months, 4 people on that list are now dead. And I'm going, wow, maybe this Job musical is touching me in a way I wasn't figuring on. So yeah, with the bishop, my bishop emeritus now died, and then my brother and my spiritual director and my friend, 4 people are gone from that list. Now, I actually haven't taken their names off that list yet. So when I go to dial someone's name, I go, maybe I need to take that name off. And it's sort of that interesting interplay of paradox that I feel the loss, but I also can feel the love. I can feel their absence, and yet I yearn for their presence. I acknowledge that they are dead, but somehow I feel that they are very much alive in spirit. So you end up dealing with it in your own way. And I think the only way any of us are going to be able to really plumb the message of this ascension is to enter into that paradox of our own lives. To enter into that and to not, you see, that's what Ron Mollar's insight is you don't try to separate them out as an either or, but it's a both and. That God is in the midst of all of it. God never abandons us. And that's what the whole story of the musical last night was all about, is that God never, ever abandons us. And He is always with us through the gift of His advocate, His Holy Spirit. And so what are we to do? Well, yeah, we're called to hold on. But at the same time, we have to sit with the pain, the pain of not understanding, the pain and the discomfort of suffering, whether it be for ourselves or for those loved ones who are suffering around us, and not being able to have the answers. To not be able to say, hey, here, but to be able to just sit with them and to hold on with them, to hold on to love. You see, fundamentally, that's what we do every time we come around the table. When we gather at table here, we gather in love for God and to want to both acknowledge His presence here and yet His absence. His death and His resurrection on a new life. His loss, but His love that remains with us. And that's why we hold on to love. Because that's the power that transforms us. It doesn't take away the pain, the suffering. But what it does is it sets it as a context and say there is something more. There's something greater beyond this pain. Something greater beyond this absence, this loss, this death. That there really is a God. And we have to trust in that message, that power of that message. So what are we to do for us today? Well, it's not enough that we come to the table. It's great that we come. Don't get me wrong. I want us all here. But it's not enough for us to come here and to feel vindicated ourselves here. We've got to take that love that we have held on to here and we bring it to those, most especially those who are finding it hard to hold on. Those who are in the midst of their suffering, in the midst of their pain, in the midst of their loss and their absence, that we give witness to God's love to them. So we make a phone call. We call them up. We go, we see them. Or at the very least, we hold them in our hearts in prayer. And we lift them up to God. So today, as we come to the table to celebrate, and that we hold on to love, we do so that we can be the messengers to others, so that we can give that love to others, so that the message, the feast, no, the spirituality of the ascension lives on in you and I. That's why we hold on to love.